About 90% of the big pharma companies today have invested in continuous manufacturing.
Hello and welcome to Hello Pharma Explore, a platform that uncovers transformative trends and new technologies in the pharmaceutical sector. I'm Sujit Nair, and today we are exploring continuous manufacturing, which is happening to be a game changer in the industry. Joining me is Mr. Klaus Moeller, a seasoned expert with over 4 decades of experience in the pharmaceutical processing and manufacturing innovation. Klaus currently heads the global sales at the Glatt Group and has been a part of many global brands that are focusing on pharmaceutical equipment. Today, Klaus helps us with his insightful information that will uncover the continuous manufacturing processes. Good morning, Klaus, and thank you for being on Hello Pharma Explore. To begin with, could you provide an overview of continuous manufacturing specific to the pharmaceutical industry and what actually makes it distinct from traditional batch processing?
First of all, good morning, Sujit, and I'm very pleased to be here today at the platform. And yes, we have been in continuous manufacturing for the last 15 to 20 years. Glatt actually has a history back more than 50 years in continuous manufacturing, but we see today that continuous manufacturing is having a bigger demand, and we get us also more inquiries today than we had even 5 years ago. The reason for it is that about 90% of the big pharma companies today have invested in continuous manufacturing, and 12 to 15 products are today FDA approved. And last but not least, continuous manufacturing is today producing a turnover of around more than $4 billion US dollars. So it is an established product in the market.
Great. So what would be the technical differences between batch processing and continuous manufacturing?
Yes. If you look at the traditional batch processing, you start with dispensing, then you have the granulation, then you have the drying, then you have the blending, then you have the compression, and at the end, the coating. Each of the steps are quality checked. You have an operator for each of the steps, and you have control systems for each of these process steps. And once it is finalized, there's a final quality check, and then finally it's then released. But that time between quality check and release can be 1 week, 2 weeks, or even longer sometimes. If we're talking continuous processing, then everything is in one room. The steps from dispensing to the final coated tablet is in one processor. It's continuously running. It's running 24 hours, 7 days a week, and it's all in one room and monitored by one team. The team needs to be qualified to operating such a plant, but we have one control system monitoring everything. And in the end of the day, you have the possibility of real-time release. That means that since you do the quality checks with, for instance, PIT, process analytical technology, you can in real-time release the product out of the system immediately and give it free to the market. There is no final quality check. Some customers are doing that today already based on the data they are collecting out of the system. So that is the distinct difference between batch and continuous, and that is also why continuous is popular for the quality of the system, but also for efficiency.
Now with the foundational differences in place, what are the key benefits that continuous manufacturing brings into the table, especially from efficiency, quality control, and consistency point of view?
It depends a little bit on the business model our customers have. Whether you are an innovator, you are a generic producer, you produce OTC products, or you are a CDMO. So you have to look at what benefits it's important for you when investing in continuous manufacturing. But in general, you can say for the innovator, no scale up and time to market is very important. For everybody, it's the smaller footprint. You can have one team and one room, and you need less operators, so in total you can save cost, of course. The system can react very fast, so you have less waste material, and you can, and that is the reason for the good quality is you can collect a lot of data during your continuous manufacturing. So you have much more data available for looking at your quality of your product, and that can reduce the cost per tablet in general for anybody, regardless of which business model you have.
Okay, now you mentioned and touched upon data as an element in the overall process, right? So with real-time data and monitoring being imperative in continuous manufacturing, how do you think technologies like IoT or AI or machine learning enhances the accuracy of the entire process?
Yeah. Let us first of all start with continuous manufacturing, what we do, because in continuous manufacturing we collect data from what we call PIT, that is the process analytical technology. That can be an NIR sensor for content uniformity, it can be a laser technology for particle size, it can be a rest moisture measurement and with NIR or with microwave, so we can monitor the conditions of the product all the way through the continuous manufacturing process. These data are collected in our control system, so we can monitor the stage of the product in the whole process all the time. And we can also trace the product to the manufacturing process, meaning that we identify the source lot when we start, we identify the target lot, but even if we are out of spec, we can then identify the waste lot. That means the material which was not good, we get a measurement, let's say that the rest moisture is not as it should be, we take it out for waste, the equipment adjusts itself again, and we go back into production and we identify the waste lot. We know exactly what has been taken out and how much is taken out. That is what our control system takes care of, and that's the heart of continuous manufacturing. The process equipment as such, the granulator, the dryer and so on, that is of course important from a design point of view, but the control system is the heart and the most important part of continuous manufacturing.
That's really insightful, Klaus. And as we have touched upon the data aspect, now when companies actually make this transitional shift, what are the operational hurdles that they actually face, which you have advised to many brands in the last 4 decades of your experience, as well as hurdles or challenges, specifically from a system bottleneck perspective or a legacy equipment integration perspective? What are those? Could you please throw some light on it?
I think that if we go some steps back, let's say about 20, maybe even 25 years ago, the regulators, especially the FDA, was asking for quality by design, meaning that you define your operating window where you can operate with your equipment and your process in order to improve the quality of the product. This did not only apply to continuous manufacturing, but also to batch. We have seen a lot of our customers who have invested in PIT equipment to monitor the processes. And this has then been transferred to continuous manufacturing at a later stage and been integrated into our control system. So what we see is that the regulators around the world are very interested to learn about continuous manufacturing and PIT and QBD. So we can only advise customers to take early contact with regulators and bring them on board when you consider to use continuous manufacturing. And then I'm also sure, that's what we see, that this is the smallest hurdle when investing in continuous manufacturing, if you bring the regulators on board at an early stage. The second point, which is very important, is if investing in continuous manufacturing and you have the QBD and you have the approach of PIT as well, which is part of it, then you need to have a highly qualified staff. Less operators, but much more qualified. Some are even saying that you need to have a key PIT specialist in your factory who knows everything about NIR and setting up the models for these PIT tools, which is very important. And I think if you have these specialists in the companies, then I'm also pretty sure that the regulators will follow, because in the end of the day, it improves the quality of the product, which is the target at the end for the regulators.
So we spoke about data a couple of questions back. Could you help us in understanding how advanced data analytics actually helps in overall regulatory compliance, as well as what's the typical data flow in the entire manufacturing process?
Yeah. Our control systems, we did develop that together with a larger pharmaceutical company in order to ensure that we understood what their requirements were, but also what the regulatory bodies were requiring, so that we also can have a system which can be approved by, for instance, the FDA at a later stage. Which is very important for continuous manufacturing, of course, is the data collection. And from PIT, process analytical technology, as I mentioned, and that we can trace the material through the whole process, as mentioned before. And as I said, our system can identify the source lot, the waste lot, and the target lot at any time, and that is the key of this whole system. There are other platforms available which you can put on top of the Glatt control systems, which collects all the data from the PIT equipment, where you then can analyze the data which is coming out of the systems. The advice is that you, at least in the development phase, invest in such tool. Maybe later when you go into production, it's maybe not necessary any longer. But for identifying your operating window in the beginning, it's very important to collect the data and analyze these data properly. And there are platforms available, like a company called SynthQ, who can provide such platforms for analyzing the data.
Equipment synchronization and process continuity are very vital in continuous manufacturing. Can you help us how Glatt system address these complexities, especially for clients needing a flexible yet cohesive approach to integrate both legacy and new systems that will eventually help them be a completely automated facility?
It's an interesting question. First of all, our continuous manufacturing control system controls each step of the process, whether it's the feeding of the raw material or the API, the blending, the granulation, the drying, and finally to the compression machine and the coating step. So our system monitors and adjusts each of these steps, making sure that we have a continuous flow and producing a homogeneous product. Now, interesting is that you say automated process, because many companies focus on the continuous manufacturing, but what comes before and what goes after. And we can deliver a fully automated factory today, where the raw material is automatically coming by, for instance, AGVs to the point in the dispensary, and is taking the product, the finished tablets, to the packaging area at a later stage. We have developed a platform for that, which we call the Glatt Integrator, which is an enhanced data integration system, which collects all the data from the process and is putting it all on a monitoring system, so that you can monitor your factory conditions at any time in real time. Okay. But if you compare that to continuous manufacturing, this approach can also be taken in batch processing. We have delivered recently factories with robot technology, but for batch processes which are fully automated, and using this integrated control system, monitoring in real time each of the process steps. So this is a batch process, but in reality is the same thinking behind it as you have in continuous manufacturing, monitoring the process at any time in real time.
So it's basically end-to-end monitoring, right? Yes. Right from the step 1 to right. Step N, everything is monitored on yes. Glatt Integrator, yes. And it gives a real-time insight for the customer correct. Anytime they want, right?
Right. And again, this is also of interest for the regulators, because in the end of the day, it does improve the quality of product, because you have less mistakes, you have all the data available at any time, real time, where you can see that the product is manufactured within the operating window of your system.
Coming to basic operational risk, I'm sure every company would have some operational risk, downtime or a faulty product. How can the entire process in continuous manufacturing mitigate this and ensure that the uptime is optimum?
Control systems or automation of plants in general are also there to reduce human errors, so that you reduce also your downtime, or you reduce losing a batch. Of course, if you have PAT on top of it, you measure the conditions of your product all the time, whether it's the particle size or the content uniformity or the rest moisture is monitored all the time. Whether that is batch or that is continuous is the same, which applies to both processes. One of the huge advantages, in my opinion, on continuous manufacturing is that you, in the process, at a given time, only have a little amount of product. If you compare, for instance, a 300 kilo batch process, if you lose that batch, you've lost 300 kilos. Let's imagine that you have a complete shutdown on a continuous manufacturing, then you will have in a given time frame within the continuous manufacturing maximum 3 to 4 kilos. That's nothing compared to 300 kilos. So even if you shut it down, you have produced a good product all the time, you have a complete shutdown for whatever reasons, even power loss, you shut it down, you only lose 3 to 4 kilos within the machine or within the process equipment. And that's one of the huge advantage of continuous manufacturing for reducing the cost when you have lost material.
Yeah, so this covers the ad hoc aspect. Does predictive maintenance play a very big role in this?
Yes. I mentioned PIT, but today we also have, for instance, chips on our equipment. And first of all, it's of course monitoring the conditions of that equipment or parts for maintenance, but that's only one element of it. The most important element is when an operator is putting, after the shutdown and cleaning, you have to put the machine back into production again. And when you chip it correctly, you can ensure that the system is recognizing the correct parts, that they are mounted correctly, and this has to be confirmed within the control system. So imagine that an operator is putting in a wrong nozzle, you could lose your whole batch. Yeah. But if a chip is recognizing that the correct nozzle is mounted into the system, and he is confirming, now I've put it inside, it is the correct nozzle, then you can produce, and you ensure 100% that the product is made with the right spray nozzle, for instance. And we have determined certain elements of, or let's say critical elements within the plant, of the process plant, which needs to have a chip in order to make sure that the right equipment or the right parts are mounted into the machine. And that applies for batch as well as for continuous manufacturing. And then you have the luxury, of course, if you have these data again, you can use it for condition monitoring and for maintenance monitoring as well. But the main driver for us was to make sure that you have the right setup of your equipment and that there's no human errors, because the chip is reading, do I have put the right equipment in place? Is it in place? Or is something missing? We can monitor that. This is confirmed, and this is even recognized within the control system. So we can even prove in the records that the right, correct equipment was mounted or was put in place when they start production.
Beautiful.
So again, this is of course also improving the quality of the pharmaceutical product which comes out.
And efficiency, I'm sure. And
of course, and the efficiency anyway.
Yeah.
You have no lost batches, you have no lost product in continuous manufacturing, so the efficiency will increase and you don't lose any batches anymore. So because you have your process under control.
Now lastly, Klaus, as this technology evolves, I mean the continuous manufacturing technology evolves, what plans do Glatt have in actually making this better, as well as what are the advancements from Glatt that we can see for better tomorrow?
Glatt has always been and often been innovators of process equipment for the last 70 years of the existence of Glatt. We have been the innovator of the fluid bed technology. We have innovated in the coating equipment that batch sizes can reduce down to 5% if necessary. We have containment solutions in place, which we have developed our own. So we are an innovative company, and which is important for us, whether that is batch or continuous. Specifically for continuous manufacturing, we have our mod cost system, which is a modularized system, so the customer can choose the modules which he needs for his process, and we can configure it. And continuous manufacturing needs a little bit of development first, so that we choose the right equipment before we configure the right equipment for him, whether that is for wet granulation continuous manufacturing or direct compression continuous manufacturing. But for both, we always look that these modules are to the new standards, that we improve them, because you mentioned downtime. Can we take it apart and clean it very fast? Can we make the tolerances of the weighing, for instance, and loss and weight feeders, can we make them even smaller? Today we can feed material continuously down to a few kilos per hour, even a few grams per hour feeding rate of APIs, which is a very small tolerance. And this has something to do with the equipment which we develop. So we are always striving to improve our technologies. And I cannot say more, but we have, of course, in our program also new technologies on the way, which will come to the market the next 1 or 2 years, which will be new in batch as well as in continuous manufacturing.
Any other specific trends that you would like to speak about, Klaus, especially as you are into end-to-end processing? Any specific things that you would like to highlight?
Yes, I think that containment, meaning handling high potent drugs or high potent APIs, is an interesting area where we for the last years have developed complete systems where we can protect the operator, protect the product and the environment much better, up to a level of OEB5. And this is clearly a trend where we see from the industry that the material is getting more active when we are talking about oncology products or immunosuppressant products. These demands high containment facilities and high containment equipment. And there we also are market leader where we can provide the right solution to the customers.
Thanks for all these details about continuous manufacturing, Klaus. I'm curious, and you can take it as my academic interest, but I've seen any series of Glatt that I've seen in certain trade shows now, and also a talk about Glatt entering the liquid processing domain. So could you help us with what are your plans and how are you taking it forward? Because liquid processing is something new, if I'm not wrong, that Glatt is entering into. So could you please help in that?
Yes. Correct. I mean, we have been in the OSD market for many, many years, and our owners, the family, they decided to invest in liquid manufacturing as well. Now there are many providers of systems in place, but either I would say they are vessel manufacturers or they are engineering companies designing these. What we can at Glatt is that our DNA is the processing. So we can provide liquid processing where we can deliver a 360-degree portfolio to the customer, meaning we can do the processing design, we can manufacture the necessary equipment, as well as putting the control systems on top of it, as I mentioned before. Mm-hmm. And that package, I think, is unique for Glatt, and that is also why we entered into the liquid market. Next to that, the liquid market is of course also growing double-digit right now. Vaccines or the new GLP-1 products coming in the market. So this is an interesting market for us as well, and that's why we entered into it from our facility in Pune.
Thank you, Klaus, for such a wonderful session. It's been great speaking to you and for the insights that you've given. I'm sure every person who sees this episode would be taking back something or other that will be extremely important for him or her. Thank you very much for your time, Klaus. And again, from Hello Pharma team, we wish you the best.
Yes, thank you very much to the Hello Pharma team, to everybody, and to you, Sujit. Thank you very much for this session. And if anybody has more questions, then they're welcome to contact us and our experts at Glatt.
Thank you. Thank you, Klaus.
Thank you too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.